It was supposed to be the perfect summer getaway. For friends, one lake, and a night that would change everything. This story was sent in by a listener from Oregon. She swears every word you're about to hear is true. Arrival at Lake Meriden. Samantha, Jake, Oliver, and Nina, 4 college friends, decided to camp off-grid that summer. They wanted silence, stars, and a little adventure before their senior year began. The lake they chose wasn't on any map. Jake found it on a hiking forum, Meriden's Mirror Lake. A hidden gem, they said. No crowds, no rangers, no noise. When they arrived, the sun was setting over the water. The lake shimmered like black glass. But there was something wrong. No birds, no frogs, just silence. Creepy, huh? Nina joked. But when Oliver leaned over the dock, his reflection didn't match his movement. It smiled a second too late. They all laughed it off. Maybe it was the rippling water. Maybe the first night. That night, they set up tents near the shore. Jake filmed a vlog for his channel, Midnight Explorers. He joked about finding the ghost of Meriden Lake. At 1:17 a.m., Samantha woke up. She heard footsteps, slow, dragging, circling their tents. She whispered Jake's name. No answer. She unzipped the tent just a bit and saw wet footprints leading from the water straight to Oliver's tent. When she checked inside, Oliver was gone. The search, they called out his name for hours, but their voices seemed swallowed by the trees. Finally, near dawn, they found him standing knee-deep in the lake, facing away. Jake ran up, yelling, but Oliver didn't move. When he finally turned around, his eyes were open, but they weren't his. Completely black. Then he whispered. The lake remembers what was taken. He collapsed. Cold. Unconscious. The next morning, they drove him to the nearest town, Ashmore. The sheriff took one look at where they'd been and went pale. You shouldn't have gone near Meriden's Hollow, he said. That place was flooded 50 years ago. Whole town under there. No survivors. Jake didn't believe him until they checked the old library records. There was a town called Meriden, destroyed by a dam burst in 1967. Every resident drowned in that valley. And now, that valley was their lake. Jake insisted on going back to get their footage. He said he deleted after, just needed to prove it wasn't paranormal. That night, his GoPro captured the last thing anyone ever saw of him. Jake panicked. Wait, who's there? Sam, Nina. Oh my. A figure crawled out of the lake. Bloated. Waterlogged. It looked like him. 2 Jakes, one screaming, one smiling. Then, the camera sank beneath the surface. Authorities found Samantha and Nina 2 days later. They were in shock. The footage? Never recovered. The lake? Drained by state order. But locals say if you visit that dried valley on a hot summer night, you can still hear the sound of water lapping on invisible shores. And if you listen closely, you'll hear your own voice, calling a name back. Summer nights aren't always warm. Sometimes they remember. Route 94 runs through miles of thick pine forest in northern Pennsylvania. A stretch of road so quiet you start hearing your own thoughts echo back. For most drivers, it's just a shortcut. But for one summer group back in 2012, it became a road straight into something not of this world. This story was sent in by a retired park ranger. He says what happened that night was covered up by state officials, but a single recording survived. Route 94 runs through miles of thick pine forest in northern Pennsylvania. A stretch of road so quiet you start hearing your own thoughts echo back. For most drivers, it's just a shortcut. But for one summer group back in 2012, it became a road straight into something not of this world. This story was sent in by a retired park ranger. He says what happened that night was covered up by state officials, but a single recording survived. 3 best friends, Megan, Chris, and Laura. They were on their way to a music festival, a last-minute summer road trip before grad school. Megan drove her old Jeep, snacks piled in the back seat. Chris manned the playlist, and Laura, she filmed everything. She wanted to make a vlog called Summer of Never-Ending Nights. When GPS cut out, they found themselves deep on Route 94. No lights, no service, just forest. But soon they saw something glowing through the trees, a campfire. They pulled over to ask for directions and found a group of campers sitting by the flames. Old lanterns, vintage clothes. One of them waved them over with a smile. "Welcome to Camp Haven," he said. "You folks look tired. Come warm up." They hesitated, but the air was freezing, unnaturally cold for July. They joined the group. The people were strange, friendly, but wrong. Too pale, too quiet between laughs. And every time the fire crackled, the light didn't quite touch their eyes. Megan noticed no one had cell phones. No coolers. No modern gear. She whispered to Laura, "These people look like they walked straight out of the 1970s. A man named Earl turned to her. "We've been out here a long time," he said with a grin. "No reason to leave when the fire never dies." She thought he was joking until she looked into the pit. The fire burned blue. No smoke, no heat. After midnight, Chris went to grab something from the Jeep, but he didn't come back. Megan and Laura searched the edge of the clearing. No sign of him. Then, from deep in the forest, they heard his voice calling. "Over here. Guys, come see this." They followed the voice until they found an old, rusted camp sign nailed to a tree. It read, "Camp Haven, closed 1974. Underneath, carved into the wood, were the names of the missing campers. And at the bottom was Chris Harper, 2012. They ran back to the clearing, but the camp was empty. The fire was still burning, but no people. Just 3 folding chairs. And on one of them, Chris's phone still recording. The screen showed a video from minutes earlier. Chris was laughing with the strangers. They looked normal in person, but in the footage, their faces were blurred, melting into static. Then, one by one, they turned to stare at the camera. "Don't leave before dawn," one of them said. "You'll never find the road again." Megan and Laura fled through the woods. They ran until they saw sunlight break through the trees. When they reached the highway, Route 94, their Jeep was gone. A trucker found them hours later, wandering barefoot along the shoulder. The ranger who took their statement said something that chilled them. Camp Haven burned down in 74. Gas lantern exploded. Everyone died. When he checked the coordinates they'd given him, there was nothing there, just empty woods. Months later, Megan uploaded the footage to a private drive. The video was corrupted, but at the 42-minute mark, one clear frame remained. It showed their Jeep parked by the campfire, and Chris standing with the strangers. Except now, he was dressed like them, hair slicked back, flannel shirt, smiling at the camera. Truckers still talk about Route 94. They say on clear summer nights, you can see a faint fire burning between the trees. Sometimes, you'll even see figures waving you down, offering warmth, a place to rest. But no one who stops ever reaches the next town. You ever stay somewhere that feels wrong the second you walk in? That silent, invisible pressure in the air, like the walls are waiting for something to happen. This next story is about a young couple who rented a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains and learned that some places don't sleep when you do. Daniel and Lisa wanted peace, no phones, no work, no city noise. They found a cabin on a rental site called Mountain Stay, a cheap weekend deal, last-minute cancellation. The listing said, "Rustic charm, perfect for stargazing." When they arrived, the host had left a note. "Welcome. Don't worry if you hear noises. The cabin likes to settle after dark." They laughed it off. Old wood creaks, right? But that night, the settling didn't sound like wood. At 12:03 a.m., Lisa woke up to the sound of footsteps above them. The cabin was one story. No attic. Daniel grabbed a flashlight, checked the ceiling, nothing. but the knocking kept moving around the walls beneath the floorboards. Then a whisper, close, right behind her ear. "You came back." The next morning, Daniel noticed scratch marks on the floorboards near the bed. He pulled one up, revealing a small crawl space. Inside, there was a door handle, a trap door, leading even deeper down. Against Lisa's protests, he opened it. A ladder led into a hidden room. It smelled like rot and something burnt. On one wall, names were carved, dozens of them, all followed by dates. The last one read, Lisa M., July 18th. That was tomorrow's date. They packed their bags, ready to leave. But when they stepped outside, the woods were silent. No birds, no wind. The road they came from? Gone. Just trees in every direction. Lisa ran back inside to grab her phone. But when she entered, the furniture was different, older, dustier. And there, by the window, sat an old woman facing away. Lisa froze. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to." The woman turned. Her eyes were white. Her voice cracked like splintering wood. "You shouldn't have woken me." Daniel burst in, dragging Lisa toward the door, but every time they crossed the threshold, they were back inside. No matter which door, which window, they ended up where they started. At 12:03 a.m., the same time as before, the house began to breathe. The walls expanded and contracted like lungs. From the cracks, dark sap oozed and whispered words formed in the air. "Stay until morning." Daniel smashed a window and jumped through. Lisa followed. They hit dirt, cold, wet, and covered in moss. When they looked up, the cabin was gone. Just forest. They wandered for hours until they found a ranger station. The ranger listened quietly, then asked where they said the cabin was. When Daniel showed the location, the man's face went pale. "That property's been abandoned since 1975, he said. "It burned down. Couple found dead in the cellar. Never found the wife." Daniel asked to see the records. There was an old photo, black and white, showing a couple standing by the cabin. The woman in the picture looked exactly like Lisa. A year later, Daniel went back, alone, determined to see the truth. There was no cabin, just blackened earth and foundation stones. But in the ash, he found something glinting, a brass key engraved with an L. When he picked it up, the ground trembled. And he heard it again, her voice. "You came back. That rental site, Mountain Stay, disappeared after 2012. But sometimes, on late summer nights, users say the listing briefly reappears. Same photos, same note, same warning. Don't worry if you hear noises. The cabin likes to settle after dark. And if you book it, you'll get an instant confirmation, with your name already carved into the floorboards." Camp Silverpine was supposed to reopen after 20 years. New staff, new kids, a fresh start after the incident in '98. But when 5 counselors volunteered to stay overnight before the grand reopening, they discovered why the camp was abandoned in the first place. It was mid-June, humid, and heavy with mosquitoes. Lena, Trevor, Maya, Dean, and Kevin were there to clean up, repaint, and prep cabins. No cell service, no signal. The camp director left early, promising to return at dawn. "Don't go near the woods after dark," he warned. "The shadows there don't stay still." They laughed it off, a local ghost story. But by nightfall, they realized it wasn't a joke. They sat around a campfire swapping ghost stories. When Trevor turned to grab more wood, he froze. There was someone standing at the edge of the tree line, a tall, thin figure, completely still. "Hey," Trevor shouted. No movement. Then, the figure moved backward without turning around, gliding into the dark. They brushed it off as a trick of the light, until Lena checked the photos she'd taken. In every shot, that figure was closer. That night, the air felt too still. The fire burned low, and from the woods came a sound like whispering voices, but not quite human. Maya thought it was kids from a nearby campsite, so she followed the sound with her flashlight. The beam flickered, then died. She tapped it, nothing. When she turned around, her friends were gone. The camp was gone. She stood alone in pitch black. Then she heard it again, this time right next to her ear. "Welcome back, counselor." Dean found an old camcorder in the rec hall. The tape inside was labeled Silver Pine 98. He hit play. The footage showed kids singing campfire songs, smiling, until the screen glitched. The next frame showed the same clearing, empty. No kids, just moving shadows, crawling, stretching, flickering like smoke in sunlight. Then the camera turned. If you survive these 4 terrifying summer night stories, prove it, like, subscribe, comment, and turn on notifications. More real horror drops soon, but only the brave should watch.